All righties.
Okay, getting started now. All right, so thank you for your patience, everyone. So today, Julie and I have decided to host a Maker Magic EarthCache workshop for a couple of reasons. First of all, just to kind of teach you all how to write EarthCaches, because it's not as straightforward as it is with just hiding a container. There's a little bit more that goes into it. And secondly, a little selfishly, because we want more Earth caches to find. So if you write some, then we can find them. So that'll be good. Um, all right. So your hosts, obviously, those of you in Saskatchewan have met me. I live in Yellowknife now. It's a little cold up here. Haven't done any earth caching up here yet, but that's the plan for the summer. So I found 191 earth caches over 15 regions. I've hidden 11 of them in BC, the Yukon, and Saskatchewan. I'm a platinum earth cache master and I also have a Mica Earth Cache Discovery Award, which I'll go over toward the end of the presentation. I'm also the top 5 top Earth Cache developer in Canada in 2025, just by the number that I've had published.
So this is my slide. I've only got 18 compared to Matthew's many finds. I've got a few hides in 3 provinces. Matthew was the one that told me how to apply for those badges. And there's an earth cache developer down in the US, and he's the one that keeps track of all the earth cache developers worldwide. And I ended up to be number 3, and they're going to Thank you, Matthew.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, so out of the top 5 in Canada, Saskatchewan, because I still consider myself part of Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan has number 3 and number 5. So go us.
Awesome.
All right. So we have a busy agenda today. So first, we're going to go over what's an earth cache, the difference between earth caches and planetary earth caches, earth cache placement rules, some acceptable and unacceptable earth cache sciences, identifying potential earth cache sites, logging tasks, how to write an effective earth cache description, logging an earth cache, International Earth Cache Day, and awards. We'll also have a Q&A session afterwards, which will not be recorded. And there will be time for an activity where you'll have access to a template to sort of learn how to write your own earth cache. All right, so handing it back to Julia now for this one.
Okay, so basically an earth cache is kind of explaining a puzzle about the earth. Like we all know that we've earth everywhere. And so it's just having curiosity about where we are and why the earth is the way it is. Like sometimes in Saskatchewan we go, oh, we can't have earth caches because we don't have volcanoes and all sorts of wonderful that, but we have amazing things that we know from the glacial era and stuff like that. And we know that our farms have amazing soil. So there's soil sciences, which are part of geology. So earth caching is about exploring the earth and discovering its secrets. And it's amazing. So instead of developing a fancy, wonderful, invisible cache like we did last weekend, or developing a puzzle cache like with crossword puzzles or something like that, we're just making a different kind of puzzle with knowledge, so they can learn about earth caches. And I'm sure probably most of you in the room have found an earth cache before. So we are going to do a little bit about that and give you some confidence to find some more and also maybe create an earth cache.
For sure.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything more about that?
No, I think you covered it, Julia. Thanks. And
So
back to you again.
Yeah. Cool. So here's some interesting quotes they were from magazines talking about geology. So people that are curious about the heritage, whether it's natural or man-made, of the environment around them. They could be geological formations, wildlife, hydrogeology, etc. And who can be bored? We're too busy finding out all kinds of interesting things. And this is when I found out about the glacial by the forest, that that I kind of have a charity that looks after the Richard St. Barbe Baker forest and the George Jenner forest. I found this in a magazine talking about them at the same time. And some may feel the term urban geology is an oxymoron, but walking on land here. In other words, something too ridiculous to think about, but not really. Considering that 80% of our population lives in urban areas, there is an abundance of reasons, both scientific and practical, to discover the geology of our urban areas as well as areas and make it available to the public. So everybody can go, ooh, and that's cool. Okay, thanks. You can do this one, Matthew.
Oh, for sure. Okay, yeah. So there's two types of Earth cache. So there's an Earth cache, just a regular Earth cache, and a planetary Earth cache. So that gives geocachers the opportunity to view and learn about geological features on Earth that also exist on Mars or planets with other planets with documented geology. So the traditional cache is as you find it, you sign a log. Earth caching is about understanding geology. Planetary Earth caching is about understanding it twice, so how it applies on Earth and another planet. So that's the big upgrade there. You want to learn why that place matters beyond the Earth. So planetary Earth caches are starting with curiosity. You stand there, you observe, you compare, you log what you see, and then helping what you learn about the geology on Earth will help you understand the geology of that other planet as well. And there's a ton of examples here. So we have canyons, for example, sand dunes, sedimentary layers, inverted topography. Basically, there's a whole host of geological phenomena that are both on Earth and on other planets as well. So there's no specific special icon for these on the geocaching site, but they are added to a list, and the title starts with planetary geology on Earth, so you can differentiate between the two.
Yeah, that's kind of like hiding a cache for SCAR 2026. You have to put SCAR 2026 in your title. For planetary Earth caches, they like the American Geology Association, which started this, likes you to start title of a planetary Earth cache that way. Thank you. So,
All right.
do you want to keep
Yeah, I
going?
can jump in. Yeah, I can jump into this.
Good.
Yeah. So next, I'd like to go over Earth cache placement rules. So each Earth cache should focus on a unique feature. Ideally, you're wanting to give your visitors a one-of-a-kind experience and help them learn something specific about the feature of that location. So reviewers focus especially on educational content when it comes to Earth caches, not just the distance from other caches. So something to note is that Earth caches and physical caches can be in the same location. So that 161-meter rule, or 1/10 of a mile for our American audience here, that doesn't apply. But the general rule from the Canadian Earth Cache Reviewer that I've been speaking to is that Earth caches with similar topics within 1 hour's drive from each other will not be published. So for example, if there's two buildings made of Tyndall stone in a certain area, and there's an Earth cache for one focusing on Tyndall stone, and then someone attempts to publish an Earth cache at the other one about Tyndall stone, and it's just down the road, it probably won't be published. And something that reviewer also really emphasized to me is that you want to make the Earth cache as site specific as possible and not very general about the geological phenomenon. So you want to talk about what's exactly there at the site you're talking about.
And Matthew is correct about that, but there are exceptions. All the reviewers for Earth caches are named GeoAware, and some GeoAwares will publish similar Earth caches near each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'll also note that the same area can have more than one Earth cache. Yeah, so something to note as well is that the same feature can have more than one Earth cache related to it. It just has to focus on a different, there has to be a different lesson related to it, I suppose. So for example, I went to this park in Kansas. It was a state park, I think, or a county park, and I think there were 10 different Earth caches in it. And it was a pretty small park, so there was a lot.
So it's like about like.
Oh, are you saying something, Rebecca? Or I'm still here. I don't know what's going on with.
Can you just ask everybody
Yeah.
to mute themselves and raise their hand if they want to speak?
Yeah, please. If you, I'd like you to mute yourselves, please. And if you have a question, please just raise your hand. But we'll cover more questions in the question and answer period after as well. All right. So Earth caches, like regular physical caches, have to be in places that geocachers are allowed to enter. For sensitive areas, permission from the land manager may be required before the cache can be approved. So that takes a little bit of research sometimes to find out who's the most appropriate person to contact. For example, there's one I'm working on. It's actually in a government building in Whitehorse, so in the Yukon. And the property manager is Public Service and Procurement Canada. So I had to reach out to someone in Ottawa to ask for permission about that. And they went back and forth with me for a little bit, but they did ultimately grant their permission. But yeah, ultimately, like as I mentioned, for physical caches, getting permission is important. I also mentioned the proximity rules already. And I'd also like to mention that you can submit an EarthCache for a location that is far from your home if you visited the sites no more than 2 months before the submission. So that's why I have caches kind of all over.
And about permissions, I've already asked a few times with the city of Saskatchewan and Watson, and they weren't really that bothered about it, so they're okay with it. Yeah.
Yeah. They're especially less concerned because there's not a physical container being placed. It's someone who's visiting an area that's already intended to be visited, but it's good to get permission still. All right, so moving into accepted EarthCache sciences. So the geocaching website lists a few sciences that are acceptable for developing EarthCaches and some that are not. So the accepted list here is kind of the bread and butter of what you'll be working with when developing EarthCache. So geological materials such as rocks, minerals, fossil sands, and soils. Geological processes such as erosion, weathering, deposition, volcanic activity, and glacial action. Geological land, good, thanks, Julia. So more accepted EarthCache sciences include geological landform evolution, such as glacial valleys, reverse topography due to rock properties, waterfalls with geological explanations, and use of geological materials like building stones. And one important thing to note about the building stones acceptable science. So there's a little bit of a caveat to that. So they don't actually want you to focus specifically on just the building material itself. It has to be a unique feature, for example, fossils within it. So you can't just go up to a block of granite, just talk about granite. They want something more specific and interesting. So I've had an EarthCache rejected before because of that. Also, geological phenomena such as impact craters, geysers, and mineral springs are good EarthCache sciences, as well as tools used by geologists such as index fossils, rocks, and historical geology sites. Now moving into the unaccepted EarthCache sciences. So rivers, mountains, meanders, streams, unless the cache page indicates what is unique about that particular location and provides an appropriate lesson. So you have to, again, that goes back to being very site specific about what you're looking at rather than just talking about, say, rivers or streams in general. Also unacceptable are plants and animals related to biology, botany, zoology, or ecology. Air and water related to atmospheric, hydrologic, or oceanographic observation. Geodesy, unless specifically linked to the location. Archaeology or history, unless it has a geological theme. Engineering, unless it has a geological theme. And cartography or lessons about basic map information. All right, I will pass it back to Julia now to talk about hosts.
Okay, so as we are getting used to hiding the physical caches, as you're driving around, you might go, aha, a stinker cabinet. But hey, I found a host. Or we might say that we've gone past a power pole, or someone found a skull and made it, or a pine cone. Here's a car. Here's that fake rock. Here's a fence that might host a geocache very well. Here's an example of a tiny. So geocache hosts can be many and wonderful. And once you start hiding caches, you kind of keep going, oh, I wonder if that lamppost has a cache on it. Oh, I wonder if that booger box has one. So that's the traditional one. So Matthew, next one. So the same thing happens with EarthCaches. I went to Ozo, Alberta for the event out there, and we were driving around and we were trying to find the mountains. It was a rainy day. We didn't find it. It was and foggy, but we found the James River. So when I got it, we took pictures, we took the GPS, and when I got home, I Googled the James River, and I found this amazing James River in the USA, which didn't help me much, but I found it in BC. And there are geological features about the James River in Alberta, and I went, woohoo! So just an accidental finding. Was a beautiful site, and so that sort of was fantastic. So here's you can do man-made or earth. So here's different kinds of dams are handy. Here's different kinds of here's a river that's oxbow type river where it snakes around like this, and so you can talk about how the water takes out the shoreline on one side and shoreline on the other side. Then when we were going through Drumheller, of course, we saw the different hoodoos and things. So that makes a very wonderful earth cache. Throughout Alberta, we had a lot of oil rig type. I don't think we have any in Saskatchewan. So if anybody knows where an oil rig is, that would be a handy one. We have many potash mine ones, but I don't know if we're all finished with them here. And then, of course, the glaciers dropped off these large erratics here and there. Somebody in bison rubbing stones and things like that. And then whenever you're in a city, sometimes a nice city municipal government will say, oh, by the way, this is how we're doing our water storm management, or this or that. So cities are amazing interpretive signs. So you can use that site and go, maybe I'll make that into an earth cache. And then you just put it into your own words. You can't copy and paste what they've said, but you can use what they've said. And I did that with the trash collected at the bottom of the Clarence Bridge here on the river. I found a sign there and I went, makes a good earth cache. So those types of ideas. So you start driving around the countryside, and even on the way back through Olds into Saskatchewan, I was passing by a few lakes and I went, I wonder if there's stories behind them. So it's very wonderful. And then, of course, my own personal journey into earth caches started because of the Bessborough False Tyndall Stone earth cache. And that's fascinating. I had never heard of Tyndall Stone and fossils, and it was so pretty. And so now I've got to make one when I go to Brandon next time. And whenever I travel, I have to make another one. So thank you, Matthew. I'm done rambling now.
All right, Julia might actually be more suited to this slide because she's hidden a few more than me, and has hidden some a little more recently. If you wanted to speak to a little bit more to that, Julia, or I can do it too.
Sure. So we know that the South Saskatchewan River right now is experiencing landslides, as well as the North Saskatchewan River here and there. And different municipalities and cities are doing different slope stabilizing measures to stabilize them. So whenever you see something, if you Google it and you go, aha, I can write a story about that. And then we already talked about the Tyndall Stone. Erosion due to glacial movement. So there might be striations, kettle lakes, or oxbow lakes. These are all to do with glacial movement. And then neat thing is back to that forest that we look after. If you live in Saskatoon, you've probably heard about the Northeast Swale Watchers trying to look after that low-lying piece of land, that's what a swale is, out on the northeast part of Saskatoon, caused by the glaciers around Glacial Lake Saskatoon. But in the west side of the city, we're not as loud as the Northeast Swale Watchers, but we've got the West Swale, and we found out that it's not a famous glacial spillway, the bigger ones in the USA, but we've got a glacial spillway here in Saskatchewan. No one talks about it. So it connects the North Saskatchewan River with the glacial North Saskatchewan River with the glacial South Saskatchewan Lake, because it wasn't open on both ends. The glacial North Saskatchewan River received the ice from the meltwater from the glacier as it receded towards Hudson Bay, and then it kept getting bigger and smaller depending on whether it was a warm or a cold era. And so pretty soon glacial North Saskatchewan Lake got too big. It spilled into the glacial Rice Lake, which is kind of the same area as our current Rice Lake, but glacial Rice Lake was much bigger. Pretty soon the meltwater was too big for both of those places, and then the water spilled over to a professor at the university. He said the spill waters at that time were faster than, or it's the same speed as the waters over Niagara Falls. And there was actually the Yorath Island glacial spillway, which formed the Yorath Island, and it always formed Yorath Island. And then there was the Moon Lake glacial spillway parallel to it, just coming down just beside it. So we have two coming down from that same phenomenon. And you have to think of the Pleistocene era. So when I think about kids learning about the saber-tooth and the mammoths, this is the same era as that. They didn't have fancy big loud sirens or radios or TV. We did have the Paleo-Indian at that time. So this was all caused around the same time. So some other people in Saskatchewan have made Kettle Lake and Oxbow lives in sometimes the local history books. You can hear local people talking about them. So if you wonder where some more of them are, you can refer to a local history book here or there, or that kind of history. And sometimes, and quite often, you can see them on Google Maps. You can see on Google Maps the West Swale or the Yorath Island glacial spillway. It's still a much greener, more forested piece of land connecting the North and the South Saskatchewan rivers. And also, we were talking earlier the different striations in the earth. So that's one of the earth sciences about our agricultural land. So you find an agricultural piece of land and you could do soil sciences on it, and talked about why we have brown Chernozemic soil at the top and down, and then there's clay, and then if you go down far enough, of course, you're going to hit bedrock. But soil sciences are very good for agriculture, and I don't think we have any earth sciences about that at all in Saskatchewan yet. Thank you, Matthew.
For sure. All right. Thank you very much, Julia. So yeah, now I'd like to talk about logging tasks. So for physical caches, proof that you found the cache, assigning the log, but how do you do that for something that's not a physical, there's no physical log? That's where logging tasks come in. So an EarthCache teaches an earth science lesson, and that cache page, the cache description, must include logging tasks that help to teach that same lesson. So the best practice is to require 3 to 5 logging tasks, I find. So if you don't have enough of them, the finders may not learn the intended lesson. And if you put too many, the finders will get discouraged and lose sight of the lesson. So 3 to 5 is kind of what I found personally to be the best. So my approach that I take when developing logging tasks is having 1 or 2 on the earth science lesson that can be answered by reading the cache description. 1 or 2 that require the finder to make observations on site, and 1 logging task getting finders to think critically about the lesson itself. So something that you can't necessarily see or read from the cache description, but taking the concepts from the cache description, applying that to what you can actually see. So critically thinking. I also like including a logging task requiring finders to take a photo of themselves or personal item with the subject of the EarthCache in the background. Just, it's nice to see pictures, and it's also another form of proof to show that people were there. And when you are submitting your EarthCache for review, you have to submit the answers to those logging tasks as a reviewer note to that EarthCache reviewer as well. So there's a number of acceptable and unacceptable logging tasks. So ideally, so you want questions that can only be answered by visiting the site, questions that allow geocachers to demonstrate what they've learned, so that critical thinking again. Open-ended questions are really, really good, like questions like why, how, what, how do you think? Not everyone's going to have the same answer for those open-ended questions, and that's okay. People communicate differently, learn differently. Another good acceptable logging task is a question that asks geocachers to compare geological features. For example, comparing the shale layers to the one above it. How does it compare, say, thickness, color, hardness? How do you think this difference has occurred? So again, that can only be answered by visiting the site, demonstrating what you've learned, and critically thinking. So again, good logging task. Taking that photo on site, again, is another good one. But that can only be in addition to well-developed logging tasks, not as a substitution. So you can't just have proof of being there and taking a picture. You actually have to answer some questions as well. So some unacceptable logging tasks now are questions that could be answered without visiting the site, such as stating an elevation reading. So I know in a few past EarthCaches I found that was a logging task. However, the rules kind of have changed over time, so that's no longer an acceptable logging task, where once it might have been. Questions that assume prior knowledge of geology, such as what type of rock is found here, asking geocachers to research the topic online, asking geocachers to quote information from a sign. That one's not so good because signs get vandalized, they fall down, they get replaced, so on. So you want your finders to be able to answer the questions without that. Also asking geocachers to take measurements that do not relate to the earth science lesson, and basically only proving that they visited the site. For example, measuring the height of a boulder, that doesn't really take the earth science lesson into account. It's just showing that you've been there. So that's not a really good one. All right, now getting even more into the bread and butter of earth caching is writing an effective description. So they can be a little daunting at first, I will admit. We're not all professors or geologists. How do you write a description? Luckily, it's easier than you think. So the general format I have for my descriptions is I like putting the logging tasks right at the top. just so someone who's looking at them quickly on their GPS or their phone can see the logging tasks right away instead of scrolling all the way down the description. Next, I like going into an introduction, so talking about the topic itself, so what geological features being focused on, and the directions to the site. I also find is very helpful. Sometimes earth caches, they aren't off a main road or can be a little tricky to get to, so helping your finders get there is very much appreciated, I find. Next, I'd like to go into the details of the geological feature itself, not in terms of the geological phenomenon, which is the next step, but just kind of this is maybe the history around the area, for example, or why it's important. Next, moving on to explaining the geological phenomenon itself, so talking a little bit about the science in it. Next, I like to talk about what I expect finders to learn by finding this earth cache. Then going into the logging tasks again, just as a reminder. And finally, just talking about the references at the end. So I like doing some research to back up what I write in my descriptions, and I have sources that I use. So I cite those sources at the end.
That does, oh, sorry, Matt.
Go ahead, Julia.
A little blurb. That doesn't just support the description being written, but say if somebody else got really, really excited about what they learned, then they could click on a link and go, aha, more about it. That might happen.
That's right. That's right. Thanks, Julia. All right. So for those logging tasks, the first couple I mentioned where I like to have them that you can answer the description, they should be in the description and not having to Google the answers, because Google doesn't always have the same answers. People are going to find different things, and you're trying to focus on your specific situation. So that's why you're hoping to reference the earth cache itself and your earth cache description. You're also, when you're submitting, you want to think of the answers you wrote to the earth cache reviewer. As I mentioned, you have to submit the answers to your logging task. Does your description include a descriptive story that leads to the answer to the tasks or questions that the geocacher needs to submit? If no, then you need to go back and add to your description so that those questions can be answered. Next, as I mentioned, we're not all professors or geologists, right? So kind of a general rule I like to follow is, could the average 14-year-old read through the description and understand it? Earth cache descriptions shouldn't require a PhD in geology to understand. You shouldn't have to have a bunch of background reading and finding papers all over the internet kind of thing. Suggested in further reading is totally fine, but for the purposes of logging the earth cache and answering the questions, you should be able to find everything on the cache description page.
I'll just add one more thing here. Just to keep it at that 14-year-old kind of level. Sometimes in geology, they learn terms that we don't use in everyday English all the time. So sometimes a little wee tiny baby glossary at the bottom of the cache page if I'm saying this or that or the other thing. And then everybody can understand it, even if they're not familiar with that terminology. It makes it much more.
Right. Yeah, thank you very much for adding that, Julia. Yeah, so obviously we're not always familiar with geological terminology. It's not in our everyday vocabulary, so a glossary is also very, very helpful. Moving on to what else makes an effective earth cache description. You want to make sure that your logging tasks can only be answered by visiting the site. You really want to discourage armchair logging. And the way you can do that is focusing specifically on the site you're looking at and not just a geological phenomenon in general. So I remember I had one, it was focused on volcanic rocks, and this was in northern BC. And I think it was one of the questions I had was, so there's holes in these little rocks. And I said, well, what's the average size of the holes on the rocks? And you wouldn't be able to tell that unless you went to the site. So that's, that was kind of one way I got around armchair logging. Another good tip for writing an effective earth cache description is advising visitors to send their answers through a message on the geocaching site or emailing you through your geocaching profile to answer the questions. Make sure that they add the geocache name and the GC number when they send in their answers. Otherwise, you're going to be a little confused just getting answers out of the blue without any context. Make sure that your finders don't put the answers in their log posting. So make sure they do put those required photos in their log if the cache description requires you to take a picture.
I'm just going to say something
Oh,
to
yeah.
the live audience, Matthew, for a second.
Mhm.
I'm going to pass this box of potash samples. I think there might be enough. I just went to Nutrien and they gave me what they had in their basket. So everybody can take one and then pass them around again. Please and thank you. Geology is about rocks. Here's a rock.
Thanks, Julia. All right. Other things to add to the end matter of your EarthCache description. So safety and access notes. I like to put those at the top, but it's also okay to put them in the bottom as well. Making sure you note that you have land use permission. You want to make sure that geocachers know that they aren't trespassing. Julia likes to add an environmental stewardship message in her end matter as well. Adding references or bibliography is important as well. Further reading, as Julia mentioned. So if you're really excited about something, want to learn more, here's some resources that you can take a look at. And finally, just taking credits and acknowledgements for text, schematics, and photos.
I'll just add something here, Matthew.
Mhm.
I belong to another group where they're actually being sued for copyright. So it's very important if you find a photo or a schematic and you go, oh, this is for natural springs or whatever you're talking about. But if it's under copyright protection, you could get us or geocaching.com into trouble. So go to Wikimedia Commons. They're perfect. They have a lot of, and you don't have to worry about it. If it's CC0 or public domain, use it freely. If it's CC, that's CC0. If it's CC3 or 4, just say this was off Wikimedia Commons, so you can just say CC 3.0 courtesy of Joe from Coco, kind of thing. Or something that you found in another document, a scientific journal, put it into your own words, and then if you want to, you can put it in the bibliography. You can say this references this text. So you have to go back to when you were at school and the teacher said, do this all properly. So we got it also in geocaches, whether it's a photo or whatever. If you do find a photo or something from a scientific journal, some of them say that they can be used. And again, put it in your bibliography or put it right by the picture that this is credit of Joe from Coke.
Yeah, that's very important. That's very important. Thanks for adding that, Julia. Something else I'd like to add to that, actually. So Julia was talking about photos, a really easy way to get around copyright. So you're supposed to visit the site before you create the EarthCache. Take a photo while you're out there and add it to your cache description. You took the photo, so you hold the copyright to it. So that's a really easy way to get around things. And that's what I like to do. I like to take a picture of the site as I was developing the EarthCache and then go from there. All right, I'll pass it back to Julia to talk about when finders log your EarthCache.
Okay, so yeah, after they find the EarthCache, right now or geocaching.com has changed. They go to the EarthCache and you find it, then you can right away do it as a log. So if I get a beep on my email that someone's logging an EarthCache, I will be watching for the answers to the logging tasks in a little bit. And it is mandatory to send. And then I will follow up, but I never have to. People are really, really good at sending in their answers, which is absolutely fantastic. And whether it's my EarthCache or somebody else's EarthCache, I find that EarthCache cache owners are very amazing. They appreciate that not everybody's a geologist. They appreciate that everybody's coming out and they go, an EarthCache, I don't want to answer this. But I always say, if you make a reasonable attempt I'm amazed that no matter whether it's a lengthy answer or a really condensed answer, it's amazing how much they will capture the essence of what the EarthCache is trying to do. So don't be afraid of answering, just go for it. We won't bite. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, so in my case, I have gotten a couple of answers that I didn't expect when someone sent me their answers for an EarthCache find. But what I like to do is I don't delete the log. So people misinterpret things, people get things wrong sometimes. So I like to send back, oh, that's a great answer. The answer I was looking for is this. But so I don't delete their log. It does show that they've made an effort to learn and go to the site and everything. So I think that should be rewarded as well.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to cover this one, Julie, or do you want me to?
You can.
Okay, sounds good. So International EarthCache Day. It is one of my favorite days in the geocaching calendar. So the Geological Society of America and geocaching.com both celebrate International EarthCache Day on the first Sunday of Earth Science Week, which is an international event held during the second week of October. Those who find an Earth cache for International Earth Cache Day earn a geocaching souvenir, and there are usually 3 days to earn that souvenir. So from what I recall, it starts on the Friday before the eligibility does, and it goes all the way to the Sunday. And then those are the 3 from the past 3 years that I have earned myself. All right, moving on to the awards. So Julie and I both mentioned that we have EarthCache Masters Awards. Julie is silver, I'm platinum. But what does that mean? So the Geological Society of America manages the global listing of EarthCache sites and offers a master's program to recognize those who visit and develop EarthCaches. So there's 4 levels in that master's program: bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And you move up the ranks by finding more unique EarthCache finds, finding EarthCaches in unique provinces, states, or countries, and creating EarthCaches as well. So I'm at platinum. I have 191 finds, so more than enough for unique EarthCache finds, 15 different regions. So that's every province and territory except for Nunavut, Northwest Territories, and Newfoundland. And I have some in a couple of other countries as well. So that covers the 5, and I've created 11, so that goes over 3. And Julia, on the other hand, created far more than me, 23 if I remember correctly, has enough EarthCache finds, but just needs to find some more in some unique provinces, states, or countries to get that platinum level. And so you go to the EarthCache website, and there's a little form that you submit. You just provide the GC numbers of what you've hidden, what you found, and then you get an email back saying that you're approved, and you get a little icon of one of those 4 badges that you can put in your geocaching profile. It's more so just bragging rights.
Yeah, and I'll add something here.
Yeah.
Go back again, Betsy.
Oh, sure.
Can you? There we go. So say if you got this one already because you found 3 and you were in maybe 2 different provinces, maybe you went to Alberta and Saskatchewan or something strange like that. And then you went to Matt, got a few more, and now you're up here. And then you decided to create one. And then you go, but they keep wanting to give me browns. So when you get to the webpage to apply for the award, then there's that cute little triangle, that little drop-down menu. You got to use the menu to go to whatever one you think you have. There we go. Yeah. Use the drop. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Julia. All right. Also want to talk about EarthCache Discovery Awards. So these are just for visiting EarthCaches rather than publishing them. It doesn't matter where they are. It's just based on tier numbers. So there's 5 levels in the EarthCache Discovery Awards program: quartz, mica, garnet, emerald, and diamond. So I am at mica right now. I have 191, only need 100, and I'm hoping to make it to garnet this year. I have a couple of trips planned where I haven't done a lot of EarthCaching. So here's hoping.
Nice.
All right, I will pass it back to Julia for this one.
Okay, in this case, it's kind of like driving along, seeing a host for a physical cache. Here we're driving along, looking for a host for your EarthCache, and pictures don't tell the whole story. You visit the actual site, you read a little bit online, and it's amazing how many stories there actually are online. You can also go to the library. There's amazing books. You can also, I'm going to talk mostly about Saskatchewan, even though Matthew's up north. The Atlas of Saskatchewan is absolutely amazing geological information. And so it's see, touch, learn when you're out in the field. And then the other thing is, as we're going along learning about EarthCaches, it doesn't hurt to get in touch with teachers at the public or high school or post-secondary level, or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts who might want to engage their students or youth with EarthCache placement hides. When we get into the further into this, there's actually been a development made for teachers to actually develop an EarthCache in the classroom, and we're going to share it with you guys as well. So the more we can reach out to other people, and it would be a great science activity for a classroom somewhere.
For sure.
teachers or something. Thank you.
All right, so that comes to the end of the presentation itself. So thank you very much for spending your time with us today. Really appreciate you being here, being enthusiastic about learning and sharing earth science, making the community thrive, the geocaching and the earth caching community. By learning the stories written in stone, soil, and water, you'll help protect and share Earth's living classroom. So now we'll move into a Q&A session, and that your curiosity, questions, and commitment to learning will help strengthen our shared stewardship of the land. So feel free to reach out to either one of us through geocache mail or continue the discussion in the YouTube comment section. As I mentioned, this is being recorded, but the Q&A session will not. So it'll be posted on YouTube soon after this meeting. And yeah, happy earth caching. Keep exploring. Your participation helps strengthen the earth cache community. Thanks very much.
And Matthew, I'll just add something to this. Even
For
though
sure.
we're going to question and answer about that part, question and answer about going to an outline, because we promised that you'd learn how to write an earth cache.
Right.
So stick around after the question and answer, and we'll get you going on an earth cache idea. Okay. So does anybody have any questions?
All right. Thanks.